You've probably heard the old saying, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." Well, let me stop you right there. That's a lie, a dangerous one, because the truth, words do hurt. They haunt. They linger like ghosts you can't shake off. And if you've ever had someone's words echo in your head years after they were spoken, you know exactly what I mean. Now you might be wondering, come on, how can mere words really change my life? But lean in, because this is where the story begins. Words, when spoken over your life, are far more powerful than most of us realize. They can decide whether you rise into wealth or sink into poverty. And tonight, I'm going to let you in on something most people never even think about. We're diving into the hidden world of how rich people speak compared to poor people. Trust me, you'll be surprised, maybe even shaken at how just a few phrases, a few everyday words, could mean the difference between staying stuck and building a future you never thought possible. So buckle up, because by the end of this story, you'll see why words are not just harmless sounds. They're the steering wheel of your destiny. Lesson 1. The I can't trap. Let me ask you something real quick. When life throws a challenge at you, something hard, something that feels bigger than you, what's the very first thought that crosses your mind? Do you hear a whisper in your head saying, "I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I'll probably fail anyway"? If so, you're not alone. But I need you to understand, that voice, that single phrase, it's poison. See, poor people, without even realizing it, get trapped in what I call the "I can't" mentality. It's the mindset that shuts down opportunity before it even begins. It's the reason so many stay stuck exactly where they are, never moving an inch forward. But here's the kicker. The rich? They think differently. They speak differently. It's the same principle as that old half-glass story. Is it half full or half empty? Both are technically true, but one way of speaking gives you hope, while the other shuts you down. Think about it. Every billionaire, every tycoon, every innovator you admire, guess what? They were ordinary people once. Just like you, just like me. Take Bill Gates. Do you think he didn't face failure? That man fell flat on his face hard more than once. But he didn't say, "I can't." He didn't say, "Maybe I'm just not cut out for this." No, he kept declaring, "I'll try again." And that one phrase, repeated over and over, reshaped the world we live in. Meanwhile, poor people cloud their judgment. They let their current situation define their future. They complain. They say can't more than they say can. And every time they open their mouth, they chain themselves tighter to failure. But the truth? Every word you speak is like planting a seed. Say, "I'll fail," and guess what grows? Failure. Say, "I'll try again," and suddenly you've opened the door to something greater. So here's your first challenge. Scrap the word can't from your vocabulary forever. Speak success. Proclaim it, even when it feels foolish. Because your brain, it's sophisticated. It listens. And when you accept a challenge with your mouth, your mind rallies all its energy to make it happen. The bottom line, be careful what you say, because one day, you just might get exactly what you spoke. Lesson 2, the know-it-all curse. Now let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're in a room full of people. Everyone's sharing ideas. Everyone's bringing something to the table. And then there's that one guy. You know the type. The one who interrupts every conversation. The one who has an answer for everything. The one who's always right. Sound familiar? That's the poor man's curse. Poor people talk like they know it all, and it's killing them. See, when you think you know everything, you stop learning. You stop listening. And when you stop listening, you stop growing. The rich? They're smarter, not because they're born that way, but because they've mastered a secret. They know when to shut up and listen. Every person you meet, every single one, knows something you don't. They carry experiences, knowledge, lessons you might need to hear. But if you're too busy talking, you'll miss it. Think about bosses, CEOs, leaders. Why do you think they hold meetings, consult with their employees, ask questions? It's not because they're clueless. It's because they understand a truth that poor people ignore. Wisdom comes from listening, not talking. And here's the suspense. You might think you're saving face by pretending to know it all. But in reality, you're digging your own grave, Because while you're defending your pride, the rich man is collecting new ideas, new strategies, new keys to unlock his future. So here's your second challenge. Adopt a curious mindset. Ask questions. Ponder deeply. Don't be afraid to admit you don't know, because that humility, that hunger to learn, that's the very thing that will set you apart. Never forget this. Fools think they know everything. The wise know they know nothing. Lesson 3. It's never too late. Let me hit you with something that might sting. How many times have you heard someone say, "It's too late for me. I'm too old to start over. That dream has passed me by"? Probably more than you can count, right? But here's where rich and poor people part ways again. Poor people set expiration dates on their lives. By 30, if they haven't made it, they give up. By 40, they say it's too late. By 50, they resign themselves to misery. Meanwhile, the rich, they carry hope until their last breath. I've met 70-year-olds, millionaires mind you, who are still drawing up plans for the future. They're not talking about winding down. They're talking about expansion, about legacy, about the next great idea. Why? Because they understand that as long as you have breath in your lungs, you have a shot at something better. But the poor, they kill their own chances with their words. "I'm too old. It's impossible to change now." And with those phrases, they lock the door on the life they could have had. Here's what I want you to remember. Age is just a number. The only real expiration date is the one you speak over yourself. So whether you're 20, 40, or 70, don't stop setting new goals. Don't stop chasing a brighter future. Because the moment you stop believing, it's over. And poor people do that to themselves every single day. The rich, they refuse. And that's why they stay ahead. Lesson 4. The no time. Lie finally. Let's talk about one of the biggest lies people tell themselves. And I bet you've said it too. "I don't have time." Now on the surface, it sounds legit. Everyone's busy, right? The younger generation especially. They're always on the move, always doing something, always too busy. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of the time, what they're busy with doesn't actually matter. Poor people, they pack their schedules with endless tasks, errands, and excuses. They wear busyness like a badge of honor. But when you look closely, their efforts produce little to no real results. Ask them why they couldn't attend an event, or take up a hobby, or even rest for once, and they'll shrug, "Sorry, I just didn't have time." But listen carefully. The rich speak differently. Instead of saying, "I don't have time," they say, "I can make time." Do you see the difference? One shuts the door, the other opens it. Rich people understand the art of delegation. They cut out the noise. They focus only on tasks that truly matter, the ones that move the needle forward. And because of that, they always seem to have time left for opportunities that matter most. Meanwhile, poor people stay addicted to busyness. They think being busy means being productive. But in reality, they're just spinning their wheels. And here's where it gets suspenseful. The next time you say, "I don't have time," stop. Ask yourself, is it really true? Or is it just an excuse keeping me in the same place while others move ahead? Lesson 5. Risk-taking separates the brave from the fearful. Let me ask you something real quick. How do you see risk? Do you look at it as a doorway to opportunity or as a trap waiting to swallow you whole? Here's where rich and poor people live in completely different worlds. For the wealthy, risk isn't some terrifying monster hiding in the shadows. No, they look at risk like a bridge. On one side is where they are now. On the other side is the future they've been dreaming about. And the only way to cross? You've got to step onto that bridge, even if it sways in the wind. But for most people living paycheck to paycheck, risk is the enemy. They hear the word and immediately feel danger, fear, loss. They think, what if I fail? What if I lose everything? What if it ruins me? And so, they back away. Here's the truth though. Avoiding risk doesn't keep you safe. It keeps you stuck. It chains you to the same cycle of fear and regret. Think about every story you've heard of someone who made it big. There's always that one moment, that leap, that gamble. That night they said, you know what? I might fail, but I might also win everything. And here's the kicker. Even when they lose, the rich see the lesson. They see the growth. They dust themselves off and try again while the poor man says, "See? That's why I never risk anything." So let me drop this on you. If you want to play it safe, you'll never know the taste of victory. But if you embrace risk with open arms, you might just surprise yourself. Lesson 6. Stop complaining. Start solving now. Let me paint you a scene. You walk into a crowded event. People are sitting at tables, chatting, eating, drinking. And within 5 minutes, without even knowing their bank balance, you can spot the difference between the rich and the poor. How? Simple. Listen closely. One table? Complaints. The government doesn't care. The hours are too long. My boss doesn't pay enough. The weather's terrible. It never ends. Now move to another table. You'll hear something different. Ideas, solutions, excitement about what could be built, what could be fixed, what could be created. That's the table of the wealthy. See, poor people complain as if complaining pays bills. But it doesn't. It robs you of time, energy, and vision. The rich, they don't waste that breath. They channel it into fixing problems, into creating solutions, into building something better. And that's why when a poor man says, "This service is terrible," a rich man says, "You know what? I'll create a better one," and charge people for it. That's the difference. Complainers lose opportunities. Problem solvers turn them into paychecks. So ask yourself, which table are you sitting at? Lesson 7. Luck is not your savior. I've heard this line a million times. Rich people are just lucky. They were born into money. They had connections I'll never have. And every time I hear it, I just shake my head. Because luck? Luck is the laziest excuse ever invented. Here's the truth. The game is even for everyone. Don't believe me? Look at the countless millionaires who came from nothing. Broken homes, poor neighborhoods, no safety nets. And yet they fought, they hustled, they built until their names carried weight. Meanwhile, others sat back and whispered, "They just got lucky." Let me break it to you. Luck didn't put in the 18-hour work days. Luck didn't face rejection after rejection. Luck didn't reinvest every dime when everyone else was spending theirs. That was grit. That was persistence. That was vision. You can sit around blaming luck, or you can get up and make your own. Because here's the secret. The rich aren't waiting for luck. They're building it, step by step, risk by risk, failure by failure. And that's how they win. Lesson 8, the trap of comparison. Let's be real for a second. Comparison is poison. And poor people sip it like it's water. They say things like, "Look at him. He's already married and rich. She's my age and driving a better car. I'll never catch up to them." And do you know what happens next? Resentment, frustration, self-pity. Meanwhile, the wealthy don't waste time comparing lives. They know the truth, and life isn't fair. Everyone starts from a different place. Some get a head start, some don't. But instead of crying about it, they focus on what they do have and use it to build their future. That's why they move forward while everyone else is stuck looking sideways. Remember this: when you compare, you delay your own growth. You lose sight of your lane, and worse, you feed your mind with negativity that steals your energy. So stop watching other people's races. Run yours. Lesson 9. Do it all yourself. Is a lie? Here's a brutal truth. If you're trying to do everything by yourself, you're already setting yourself up for failure. Poor people love saying, if you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself. Sounds noble, right? Sounds hardworking. But in reality, it's a trap. Because here's what happens. 5 years later, that same person is still stuck in a one-man operation. Exhausted, overworked, burned out, and broke. Meanwhile, the rich have learned a different lesson. Delegation. They know you can't be the CEO, the marketer, the accountant, and the janitor all at once. You've got to trust others. You've got to build a team. And that's the secret sauce. The rich multiply their impact by surrounding themselves with people smarter than them in specific areas. They build empires while the poor cling to small hustles, afraid to let go of control. So here's the question. Do you want to stay small and tired, or grow big and free? Lesson 10. The language of investment. Spend just 15 minutes around wealthy people, and you'll notice something. They talk different. They're not gossiping about neighbors. They're not complaining about yesterday. They're not comparing cars or clothes. They're talking about investments. Where are you putting your money? How's that stock performing? Should we expand this project? And guess what? They're not afraid of sharing ideas. They know talking sparks new perspectives. They trade insights, sharpen each other, and come back stronger. But poor people? They guard every little thing like a dragon hoarding gold. They don't share. They don't ask. They don't learn. And because of that, they miss out on growth. Here's the truth. Money grows where conversations flow. Keep your ideas locked up and they'll stay small. Share them, refine them, invest in them, and they'll grow beyond your imagination. Final word. Your words. Shape your world at the end of the day. It all comes down to this. The rich and poor talk differently. The rich, they speak possibility. They speak hope. They speak future. The poor, they speak fear. They speak doubt. They speak limitation, and your words, they're not just sounds in the air. They're seeds. Every complaint, every excuse, every I can't plants failure in your mind. But every I will, every I can, every I must plants a future. So the question is simple. Which seeds are you planting? Because your mouth will build the world you live in. And that's today's story. Before you go, do me a favor. If this message hit home, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because remember this, it's never too late to change the way you think, the way you speak, and the way you live.